Hello and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Scint.
I'm Axion.
And we are continuing our read-through of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and our playthrough through Final Fantasy V. Hey, Chocobo.
Yep.
Is he just gonna live there now?
Yep.
Oh. Go rescue him.
I'll get him in a bit.
You're gonna leave the little chicken alone for this long?
Yup. He's fine. He has a family.
Cruel. Fine. Alright, anyway. So, we're going to talk about the brain today. Not to be confused with Pinky and the brain, but mostly just mental strain, which is something we've kind of talked about a fair bit with, this is a fairly heavy book in terms of the stuff our protagonists are dealing with. And teen angst is a fairly obvious side effect of how that's going to happen, but we also get to see how mental health kind of looks in the wizarding world. And really, how can you protect your mind? Which is also something that comes up. So, Axion, what jumped out to you about how mental health was portrayed in Order of Phoenix?
How bad it is. I know there's probably something of a cop-out answer, but wizards in the Potterverse seem to be very bad at mental health in general. And there goes my keyboard.
Go on.
So, for example, Harry is having an extremely, extremely rough summer. And as per usual, he is very uncomfortable, unhappy, and generally having a wretched time living with the Dursleys. He is scared. He has so many questions. He is desperate for news about what is up with Voldemort ever since his revival and the death of Cedric Diggory. And no one will tell him anything. He is pretty much completely unable to get information out of any of the resident authority figures. And when he attempts to make contact, he is either not contacted back or given basically a "don't worry about it." Obviously, none of this is particularly helpful. And it just causes him to get more and more stressed.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment for Harry.
Until eventually he just lashes out and takes things into his own hands. Which is something of a repeating motif throughout this particular story. Not just Harry, obviously, as we discussed in the last episode. Hermione reaches a point where she simply gets tired of waiting and takes matters into her own hands. And there are definitely points where that is the appropriate reaction.
That was actually not where I was going to focus with this, but definitely interesting.
It's where my mind went, but yeah, what was on your mind?
St. Mungo's.
Not wrong.
Yeah. Specifically, there are two different cases to look at there. One is presented in a bit of a humorous light. Gilderoy Lockhart, who while trying to erase the memories of Harry and Ron back in Chamber of Secrets, the wand backfired because he was using Ron's broken wand, and he wiped his own memory of everything. He's still there, still has no idea who he is, still has made no progress on recovery, but gets fan mail by the day, and seems perfectly content with this. He's kind of portrayed as just an eccentric goofball while he's there, even though he doesn't have any capability of taking care of himself anymore because he doesn't remember anything. And it seems like even being repeatedly told hasn't helped. So I'm not really sure how amnesia works in the Potterverse, but it's not going well for him. And, well, the kids kind of run into him and are mistaken for visitors there, and, all that happens, and they all seem very awkward with it, probably because they're why he's there, but, not really much sympathy given that he literally did it to himself.
Yep.
On the other hand, there's a much more serious case presented at St. Mungo's. The Longbottoms. So, in Goblet of Fire, we are told that Frank and Alice Longbottom were tortured into insanity by Barty Crouch Jr. and the Lestranges, and I think there was one other who I don't remember, after Voldemort fell. So, they're alive, but they do not seem to be very aware of their surroundings or able to interact with them in any meaningful manner. Neville has never mentioned this to anyone, and honestly does not know how to respond to seeing the trio at the hospital. They're there for Arthur Weasley after he gets attacked, obviously, but he just seems embarrassed to be seen there. His grandmother is rather dismissive of the whole situation, and the thing that stuck out to me is his mom, as they're leaving, walks up to him and gives him a candy wrapper. And Neville just acts like it's a very valuable gift, which really makes you wonder how badly off they are if that's all they can do. And they've been there for 14 years with apparently no capability of being helped. So, we have seen that wizarding magic can heal almost anything. Phoenix Tears can bring you back from a fatal poisoning. Madame Pomfrey can regrow every bone in your body and heal broken ones even faster. You can change your teeth. You can presumably fix being half transformed into anything. But when it comes to the mind, apparently all they can do is shut you up in a room and forget about you.
Yep. They do not have magical treatments for mental health. They are more or less relying on... This is fucking annoying. Let's just not. But yeah, they are relying on more or less the same resources and knowledge as Muggles when it comes to mental health.
I'd actually argue they're worse off than Muggles when it comes to mental health, because Muggles, we know, have medications that can help with situations like this.
Also true.
Never is it mentioned any particular potion that could help with something like this. Never is it mentioned any herbs that could be used with that. There might be something mentioned in passing in herbology, but mostly we just hear it for physical ailments. So yeah, there's no actual magic that we've seen that has been focused around mental health. So I wonder if it's not that there's not magic that exists, it's just that it hasn't been discovered because, for some reason, mental health always takes a last priority in a lot of situations. Physical health is visible, mental health means you suffer alone. In fact, aside from having your memories outright wiped, the only mental magic I think we actually see would be occlumency and legilimency.
Yep. Reading minds and preventing others from doing so.
Both of which come up, and neither of which really go particularly well for Harry. Partly, again, due to, I want to say, lack of mental health support. Because, hey Snape, I know you have this really, really, really bad trauma regarding James Potter, so can you go one-on-one tutor his son who looks exactly like him, and in the process of this have to rehash a lot of the bullying he put you through? Because, bullying isn't something, in all cases, that people can just forget about and move on. Especially if it's severe. In all seriousness, there have been people driven to suicide by bullying. It's
an unfortunate fact that has become more and more well known in the internet age, as the ability to be bullied no longer stops when you leave the public forum of school or wherever else people are congregating at the time where the bullying happens, work, social organizations, etc.
Yeah. So, there aren't wizard therapists that we know of. A wizard therapist would have probably helped a lot of people out in this book, and might have prevented a lot of issues from happening. Because Snape was obviously dealing with a lot of unresolved trauma from his bullying years, and with good reason, because we kind of saw how far James would take it. You know, up to the point of literal attempted murder that Dumbledore glossed over as, oh, he saved his life. I think Dumbledore might play favorites just as badly as Snape does.
Just a bit. Also, ow.
But yeah, that prevented Snape from teaching Harry some skills that would have absolutely prevented Sirius's death. So, yeah. Mental health is extremely important and extremely overlooked, and in that sense, the world of Harry Potter does sadly reflect reality. Their only treatment for mental health problems that are too severe to be, swept under the rug is to hide them away in asylums, which is a throwback to a time that we probably should not try to go back to, because we used to have that in our world. Thankfully, things have gotten better for most forms of mental health issues. Not perfect. Far from perfect.
Long well to go for perfect.
Oh yes, but at least having a little bit of the sads now and again doesn't mean you're going to get shipped off to the asylum and hope your family remembers to come see you sometimes.
Or someone looks at you and decides, you are fundamentally broken, you will be better off with a lobotomy. Or with severing one of the many important connecting bits in your brain.
Yeah.
The history of mental health is messed up, if you were not aware.
Oh yeah, and we can even take that further, because mental health was even more messed up if you happen to be female. Because, you just had a very difficult pregnancy and your body is not in very good shape after that, and you feel very sad, or you lost a baby and you're feeling very sad over that. You must be hysterical. Yeah, don't get me started. yeah, the Wizarding World does not have adequate means in place to cope with the myriad issues that being in the Wizarding World can cause. So, it creates massive, massive problems for our heroes, and long-lasting ramifications that could have been avoided with better systems in place.
Yep. And that brings us back to occlumency and the other one I can never remember the name of.
Vigilancy.
Yep, thank you. Which also taps into a subject that we discussed in a prior episode with regards to the utter lack of privacy and constant threats to thereof in the Wizarding World, and all the many, many ways that someone can mess with you in a either very difficult to or completely impossible to detect manner. We now have been introduced to a form of magic where someone can pry into your mind to see what you have hidden there completely against your will, and unless you are specifically trained in the precise field of magic that is designed to oppose it, your chances of resisting its effects are next to none.
Even better is the fact that this came up because of a completely accidental connection forged between Harry and Voldemort. Because Harry and Voldemort have been connected ever since Voldemort attacked Harry. So this came up because Harry was having dreams that seemed to be viewing what Voldemort was seeing, which is how he was able to sound the alarm when Arthur Weasley was attacked. And that actually plays into things a bit as well. Harry has a hero complex. Hermione calls him on this, and Voldemort uses this against him, fabricating a scenario that leads Harry to rush off without waiting for help, and that gets Sirius killed, and nearly a lot of other people. So, yeah. Lack of ability to address these issues and concerns, and the feeling of not having an adequate support system in place, has led to the death of people close to the heroes.
And unfortunately, this is something that Harry does not really learn at this time. Hermione calls him on it, but he doesn't really accept it. And he continues wanting to play the hero throughout the rest of this book. And when Sirius does die, Harry does not take any personal blame. He blames the people they were fighting against who actually directly caused his death. Which, on the one hand, very obviously, the Death Eaters were, for their own part, responsible for the literal murder of the man. But Harry takes next to no acknowledgement of his place as an instigator of the situation that led to his godfather's death.
Dumbledore does try to bring this to his attention. It's like, well, Snape said, of course Snape was going to pretend he didn't know what you were talking about. You were in front of Dolores Umbridge. He didn't have any choice, and as soon as he had the chance to, he contacted Sirius to make sure he wasn't there. And then you guys ran off to the Ministry of Magic anyway. Harry doesn't get a lot of situations, which is normal for a kid. It's just that Harry is in a position to cause real damage when he makes that decision. Which, hopefully, he's learned this lesson at least a little bit.
We'll have to see how that pans out in future books. Because
I'm not really sure what else to say here.
As of the end of this book, he does not appear to have taken that directly into account, but that could simply be because he's still in the mourning phase and not yet in the, well, what am I going to do about it phase. But we shall have to see. Anything else we want to touch on while we're here?
Not that comes to mind.
Alright. We will see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.